Right, it is the 5th day of the month of April 2023. So, how many days are you counting to the end of the month? For those who know what they need at the end of the month. But of course, it's been a very hectic week, very busy one for both Kenya and Rwanda, at least for those of us who have been witnessing in the news. And of course, we had a very high-profile visit in the country, and a total of about 10 bilateral agreements were signed right in Rwanda, among them one on youth. And talking about youth, that is what our focus is on tonight on the summit. My name, as always, is Eugene Andangwe. I'm not alone in the program. As always, we have very able panelists right here in the program. And of course, it's going to be a very engaging one. Like we always do right here on the show, we open up the conversation to go beyond just right here in Rwanda. And of course, I want just to show you some of the teams or the people who will be joining us from outside of Rwanda. We have them, let's kindly have them on the screen. We have Felix Hamayua, who will be joining us from Lusaka, Zambia. And there he is. Of course, we also have Honorable Alice Gathekia, who will be joining us live from Nairobi as we speak right about now to just give us perspective on the conversation that we have. Also in studio, I have a very able panel that I'll be introducing right here. But before we do that, let's just take a look at what you've been saying concerning the topic of tonight. We had spoken about the issue of Africa being a young continent. It's a young continent. I'll give you perspective on that. But it has vast resources. That is not news to us. We already know about that. But to realize the potential of the continent, engaging the young people will be very, very important. But we'll be asking ourselves, how do we have the youth engaged right here on the show? And of course, we've been seeing comments coming through, and for those who are watching us right about now, it's just to tell you that we're also live across our YouTube channel. You can be able to follow the program from wherever you are. But let me just read some of the comments that have been coming through. We have one from Sylvester Carrara, who actually said earlier on, this is a miss not. It's a must-watch conversation. Thank you so much. I hope you're already tuned in. Emmanuel Nyigena, who already says, for me, 3 pillars are needed. One is a proper knowledge correspondent with their talents and environment, that is Africa. And of course, number 2, character. Youth must work on their talents and rather on their character first. And then number 3, he speaks about the issue of the need for good leadership that mentors and supports the youth. I have Paul Habineza, who has said, good question, but hard to answer what the youth really need. Number 1, good employability, good health, good leadership, good mentors. I think we've already had 2 points there concerning leadership and mentorship. Remember, you can be part of this conversation. We've opened it up, and all you need to do is just add the hashtag #TheSummitRW. It makes it easier for me to track the tweets that you're tweeting, because they come in thick and fast, and it's hard to track all of them. But when you have that hashtag, it's simple. Let me now introduce our panelists in studio who have joined us graciously right here. I'm going to start from right here, just close to me. We have Solange Tetero, who's the Director General Youth Empowerment at the Ministry of Youth in Rwanda. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for inviting us.
Also, we have none other than Rika Rugamba, who's the Country Director at the MasterCard Foundation. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for having us.
And with us is Christian Inuari, the Director, Our Past Initiative.
Thank you for
And you were nominated by several young people online when we said that we want to hear some voices, not to make the other guests. You were also nominated.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, and as we said earlier on, we also have Felix Hamayua, who's joining us from Lusaka, Zambia, and of course, Honorable Alice Gathekia, who will also be contributing from Nairobi, Kenya. Let's kickstart this conversation right here, and I'll start with you, Solange. This past 2 days have been very busy for Rwanda. The president of Kenya was here, Dr. William Ruto. We saw signing of, agreements totaling to around 10 of them. One of them was on youth, but of course we had others, gender, plus of course the diplomatic training or training around the diplomatic area. Talk to us a bit about what is inside that agreement between Kenya and Rwanda when it comes to the youth, because we'll be talking about them right here. And not so many people know the detail in the document that was signed right here.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very good question. Actually, this MOU that was signed in youth affairs is very exciting for the youth of Rwanda and the youth of Kenya, because it has a lot of opportunities for them. Number one, it has exchanges between the two ministries, sister ministries of youth. We'll be learning from each other, learning from the Ministry of Youth in Kenya what works for them, what doesn't, and what the Ministry of Rwanda is doing, what works for Rwanda and what doesn't, and how we can use those learnings for us to improve our programs. Again, it has another element of establishing platforms and forums for young people of Rwanda and young people of Kenya to learn from each other, to collaborate in putting together businesses and to trade with each other, and to be able to leverage the Africa Free Trade Area, to use that to be able to trade with each other, the export and import parts. But also it has an element of scaling up the Youth Connect Africa initiative, which is one of the biggest programs that was initiated by the government of Rwanda. And this program has for aim to connect young people to opportunities, to employability, skills, to mentors, to different opportunities, to financial institutions. And it is now operational in Rwanda for the last 10 years. And it has been launched in Kenya this year. And through this MOU, we'll be scaling it up so that most of young Kenyans can take advantage of this Youth Connect program.
Interesting. Rick, I'll bring you in, but first let's hear from one of the young people on this table today. Not that we are old, we are also young at heart. Christian, a lot is happening. We've witnessed such kinds of signings by the leaders. We've also seen initiatives left, right, center. But there are young people who feel you're not getting it right. I mean, maybe you're not really understanding our core issues. Maybe you're not getting it as we would like it to be done. When you put your ears on the ground, and also as a young person, where are the missing links? What are the gaps? Even despite all these initiatives, these efforts, where do you think we're not getting the young people right on their issues?
Thank you so much. I think the first issue is putting things in, always bring things in general.
Generalizing.
Not going down there in the villages and all kinds of areas to listen to what the young people are asking and how we can find solutions. I've seen someone a few weeks back, it was a debate going on of how drugs are killing young people and all that. So when you look at the comments, the questions, and the complaints of the older generation, the issue or the question should be, what are the alternatives? That's where the issue is. If someone comes from school from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., what is happening? Me, I even I had the chance to speak at the Umushyikirano this year. And I was sharing my story of where I grew up. I grew up in Nyamirambo. And I was talking about how Club Rafiki saved my life in so many ways, kept me away from the drugs, gave me different skills. The very first time we started our past initiative, the majority of the group I had was from there. So this shows you how much we need Club Rafikis around. You see, because before complaining about, we are taking what we are offered. See, that's where the issue is. So, are we listening to these young people, or are we trying to do the research of what they need? Let me give you another example. The last time we had a strong national basketball team was in 2010, 2011. That's a fact. And that was the last time we had the biggest inter-schools competitions. So we don't have those anymore. Maybe they are on, I think, on district levels or province levels. So we need to improve that and bring that back. Because that's how we are going to see if that's the solution.
Or not.
Or not.
Okay. So you bring in the point of the lack of actually being on the ground to properly understand the core issues of young people, even while formulating what those who formulate them think are the solutions. Rika, this is quite absurd because we are talking about youth engagement. And if it is wrong from the beginning, then how then can this be fixed? For example, at the MasterCard Foundation, how are you plugging in on the aspect of engaging the youth while formulating what you think are the solutions to their problems?
Yes, thank you very much. And I think, it was listening to Inwari is actually telling us what we have heard from other young people.
Yeah.
So at the MasterCard Foundation, where our focus is on youth employment, we recently decided that we needed to have a youth advisory council that would keep us accountable. And this was really based on, our belief that you cannot speak about the youth without the youth in the room.
Correct.
And we've seen how that makes a difference. And so maybe to speak to, how do you get it wrong? We've been implementing a strategy we call the Young Africa Work Strategy with a goal to enable 30 million young people by 2030 into work in Africa. Which is quite bold. But we realize that the way you do it, you cannot have just young people as beneficiaries, but as real partners.
They've got to be on the table as partners.
They have got to be on the table. And it's very interesting that when you engage them, they actually tell you what their needs are. But through a diagnostic that we did, we actually realized that sometimes we make a mistake of taking the young people as a heterogeneous group, which they are not. And I think that's what you were talking about. So I'll give you an example. When we say we want to enable young people into dignified and fulfilling work,
yes,
we first decided what is dignified and fulfilling. And in defining it, we went to the young people themselves to tell us what they think is dignified and fulfilling.
What did they tell you?
So what they told us, they said, on one hand, reliable income, safe, a place, a workspace that is safe, a sense of purpose, among others. But even in pushing that to understand, is it the same for every young person? What we heard, a lot of the educated young people said, sense of purpose. I want to work, but I want that feeling of sense of purpose. The less educated one were like reliable income. I want to be able to have money that's reliable, because we know in the rural areas there is some income, but there's a lot of underemployment.
Yeah.
It's very seasonal. So I think it's very important to really begin by the diagnostic, and the young people that we want to serve actually have the answers to the problems that they live every day. And this differs.
Yeah.
And then with that, then you're able to actually have interventions that meet the needs of these different groups of young people.
Specific needs. Because each has a specific need.
Absolutely.
Deji, I'm going to ask you this because I'm sure in your boardroom meetings, in your strategy planning sessions, I'm sure you sit back and ask yourselves what you think the youth need in terms of areas of entrepreneurship, areas of education, areas of technology. What do you come up with in these meetings? What do you think the youth really need?
That's a very good question. When it comes to what youth need, like Dika was saying, it's very diverse. They don't need the same thing because it's a very heterogeneous group, because you see some of them have completed, let's say, primary school, some of them have completed secondary school, some of them have completed university. So the needs are different depending on where they are, at which stage of life they are. And when we try to, to isolate those cases, to look at, what can be the solution to what those young people needs,
yeah.
Sometimes it requires to think at it and to look at it in that way,
yeah.
in that diversity, where we try to, let's say we take a group of young people who completed only primary school. Those young people, they need skills. They need additional skills for them to be able to fit on the current job market, which is also growing and diversifying each and every day. And when you look at those who completed secondary schools, we have this issue of skills mismatch, where they complete schools, but they don't have skills that are needed on the job market. So how can we leverage the knowledge that they've gotten from school, for them to be able to get, let's say, the skills of the 21st century, those skills of critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, global awareness, for them to be able to fit in the current job market, to tap into the opportunities that are out there. And the needs of young people who completed primary school and those of young people who completed secondary schools and tertiary education are very different. So we try to look at that. And again, we look at the sectors
but
that
before we go to the sectors, I just need you to pause there and let's look at that issue of the mismatch. People going through education, depending on the systems of education, they're also different within the region. Going all through to university level, to master's level, only to get out and find that all you've been studying is not matching what the job market is. How do we get there? I mean, why, Deje, how are we not able to stop that from happening? From the conversations we've had so many Mushichiranos, we've had so many sessions where we can discuss these issues. How do we not stop it from happening? It's like those people with CCTV cameras. We are only seeing it after it has already happened. When the CCTV camera was there, why didn't you stop that ill action from happening? I'm trying to ask, why not nip this in the bud before it gets there? Because many people, young people, are going through this dilemma.
I think it is not easy to stop it because the job market is evolving. With the digital technologies, with new technologies out there, everything is changing along the way. So that means if you completed university in 2015, there are new technologies that you didn't learn in school. That requires to keep on learning, to keep on informing yourself, to keep your eyes open so that you can be able to tap into existing platforms and forums there for you to educate yourself on new technologies. But again, I do agree with you that there are some issues in our education systems, not only in Rwanda, but across Africa, where we have to relook at our curriculums to be able to fit the needed knowledge right now in the job market so that graduates can be able to graduate relevant to the job market, to the current job market.
Yeah, I would like to hear from Christian, if that worries you that we are not able to plan ahead for the next 5-10 years because the job market is dynamic, yet we have people who are in school today. Does that worry you as a young person? Or what do you read from that statement?
It does, in a way. Now that we know where the issue is,
yes.
What are the solutions?
Correct.
What is the education system doing right now to prevent that from happening in the
What
next
should be
10
done?
years,
What should be done?
I think we need to look into what the global market has and needs right now and prepare from that. Because the issue is, to me, that's what I think, that's my opinion. The issue is always thinking from what we have, or maybe the capacity we have, and only use that. Is it because that's what we can afford, or is it because we don't know where we can find a better one, or we just give what we have? So that's to me, that's what I think.
That's the issue.
Yeah,
Rika, this is it's like your playground, the area of.
That's why I was looking
of employment. Rika, we're talking about 18 million new jobs required per year to absorb new workforce, as we speak. But in the next, by 2050, we'll be requiring 30 million jobs every year. And he's looking at you. And I'm also merging it with what the Deje said about the fact that it might be difficult to predict in terms of making sure that those who are in school today can fit in the job market of the next 10, 20, 50, 25 years. What's the formula here? What should be the formula?
I think, just to build on what Solange said, I think it's a difficult, it's a challenge. Yeah. It's a challenge. And maybe to bring it back home, when you talk about, 30 million jobs or the 18 million gap, in Rwanda, some recent studies were saying that we have about 125,000 young people coming into the world market every year.
Yes.
And we only have about 396,000 jobs in the market, formal jobs in the market. So you can imagine what that means in terms of a gap. Yeah. So in terms of, what we need to do, I think skills is definitely very, very, very important. And some of the work that we're doing in that regard is really skilling is at different levels. The relevance of the market, I think that has been talked about, and that requires working with the industry, and not just the industry in the country, but also the global market. Today, we know without a doubt that the digital economy is the next frontier. We've seen what that did for India, and now the young people, this is looking at Africa. So it's being able to build the skills, the digital skills. And I think from the recent census, we saw that while you have penetration of, mobile phones and all that, only about, I think it was 22% usage of, internet. Why? One of the issues from what we heard from the report is digital skills. So yes, you have internet, it's costly, but you also don't even have the skills to use it. And so I think it's going to be very important that we say, okay, these are the key things. And there's some work that is happening, I think, in Rwanda, whether it's, with ALU, Africa Leadership University, Carnegie Mellon, Ames, and other players that are coming into the market. But they are playing at the 3% because the data is also showing those who start primary that end up in tertiary is, I think, about 3%. So we need to be able to look at the secondary school level. And then we also have those that out of school. So really massive training into those skills that matter, access to devices, lowering the cost of connectivity, and being prepared. Because we definitely have to think, the world market. And Africa, I think, has a lot to offer, but we need to be prepared.
We need to be prepared. When you mentioned Africa, it's my cue to open up this conversation and bring in Felix. Felix, who's joining us from Lusaka, Zambia. Felix, if you're there with us, you've been listening in from the last 23 minutes or so of this conversation. From where you sit in Lusaka, Zambia, what are the key concerns of the youth there when it comes to the areas of entrepreneurship, education, government issues?
Thank you so much, moderator. Allow me to thank the panelists and their submissions, which are very critical and indeed valid. Speaking from the Zambian perspective, indeed the issues, the challenges that are facing young people, if we look at it from the continent point of view, they are the same across the countries. But what government has done, and this is what we have been advising and we have been speaking, we have said we need to define the Zambia that we want. When we define the Zambia that we want, let us define the kind of leadership that we need for the Zambia that we want. When we do this, let's align policies that speak to the Zambia that we want in the next 5, 10, 50 years from now. Our education system also should be aligned to the Zambia that we want. And when we do that, let's define the kind of youth leadership that we need. Let it be in the business sector. What kind of leadership do we need? And I'm happy to say that as a country, what we have done under the current government is that they have created for the first time a ministry that is in charge of small, medium development. And their whole mandate is to ensure that we grow the SME sector in Zambia and break some of the red tapes that young people have been facing for a long time in terms of access to finance and the hectic process of you doing a company registration. And now we have seen an increase of young people going into the SME, but also what government has done is what is called the Constituency Development Fund, which has been brought down to the community level, allowing young people to have access to finance. Remember, there's a different thing. It's different to say we need young people to participate in governance or young people to go into the SME. Have we provided a conducive environment for them to thrive? Have we put up deliberate policies that allow them to thrive? And have we put up policies that allow them to have access to finance? And this is what Zambia is doing by creating this ministry and bringing the Constituency Development Fund to the young people for them to have access to finance and move away from the usual speaking of politicians. We have created a conducive environment, and yet policies are contrary to what they are saying.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you very much for that submission. Stay with us. I want to hear from Alice. Alice, on the issue of leadership, because for these policies to actually speak to the needs of the youth, then at least there has to be, from what I've heard from several young people, is proper representation in terms of who is representing us. Do they understand our needs? Do they connect with us? Do they feel what we feel? Talk to me a bit about this when it comes to leadership. You yourself, you vied for office in Kenya, and you are a politician back there in Kenya. Speak to me a bit about the aspect of youth or young people participating in political or active politics to be able to sit at these tables as people who are also formulating these policies that speak to their needs.
Thank you, Eugene. Hello, viewers. Hello, fellow panelists, and greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. That question is very timely, and I just wish to confirm that indeed I contested for office in the just concluded general elections in August 2022. I was contesting for senator for Kiambu County, which is a peri-urban county that neighbors Nairobi County, and of course bears the brunt of the huge population that is in Nairobi. And so here in the local parlance, we say that Kiambu is a bedroom to Nairobi. So we donate labor to Nairobi. We donate food to Nairobi, not per se donate, but we have some kind of agricultural relationship with Nairobi. We have an infrastructural relationship with Nairobi. We also have a social relationship with Nairobi, seeing as there's a lot of social integration going on, what with the influx of the massive rural-urban migration that has informed the constituency of Nairobi. Now, coming to your question regarding leadership involvement, especially in implementation and formulation of policies. I have been one of the champions for inclusive leadership and inclusive governance and expansion of spaces of youth, as well as intersectionality of youth, especially in involvement in governance, because governance and goes hand in hand with democracy, and democracy involves a lot of inclusion of all the concerned sectors in a given society. Just last month, I attended the International Women's Day conference in Washington, D.C., and inclusion was one of the aspects that we focused on, and they actually reported to us that they had formulated what we call the Global Fragility Act that actually focused on, enhancing inclusivity in governance and agency, especially in the target partner countries. And so for me, one of the areas that I find is a mismatch between governance and implementation mainly begins at the political party level, because that is where most of the youth are eclipsed. And you find that there's a lot of political brinkmanship, especially in the leadership of political parties. I hold the solemn view that all national policies, all national agenda is incubated at the political party level. And therefore, if we are to make things right, we must begin at the level of the political party, because it is the nurturer of any political career of a leader.
Right. Thank you so much, Alice. I mean, you're speaking from a country which a lot of young people did abscond, for lack of a better word, when it comes to participating in, the active elections. Even in the last election, we have seen young people shying away from, participating in actually even the voting process. We'll come back to you later on to try and speak a bit about that and what needs to be done to encourage young people to participate in political activities. But before that, I want just to go through some of the comments that we're also seeing. But Christian, on the issue of engagement in political spaces, you're famed for the Ingotanyichane terminology. Talk to us a bit about what really stops young people from actively vying for these positions or actively electing those leaders who will actually speak for them, just in a nutshell.
When you look at bring that a little bit down.
Yes.
When you look at it says good employability,
yes,
good health,
yes,
good leadership,
and good mentors.
Yes. So the last two tells you more about what the answer should be. One, sorry, do we have leaders that inspires us to join all these different positions? That's one. Two, do we look at them as mentors or do we look at them as disappointments? Sometimes I can't put that in general because that would be a mistake. But sometimes you look around you and you don't get inspired by what you see around you. People are changing positions here and there every day. And sometimes it's the person you have been looking up to for the past, let's say, 5 years.
Yeah.
And like this, they disappoint you, you know?
Yeah.
So it'd be like,
So there's no consistency.
you know, there is no consistency.
Yeah.
That's why even His Excellency, when he was giving a speech, he was like, I still feel guilty of not seeing, coming back here makes me feel guilty of not seeing
A suitable
maybe to, you know,
person who can take over.
take over,
Yeah.
you see? And that's not just in the older people, maybe his age or the leaders we have today. That also says more about, is the young generation inspired to take over when I'm done?
Yeah.
That should be. We need good leadership, not just the president, because I think he's doing his best and he has delivered.
It has to trickle down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to go down to the cell level, the village.
And when it is missing, it is up to you to occupy those spaces. This, I think, is what I would advise. Because the leaders won't just be there to lead you always. When they don't act as per what you think and they disappoint you, you take over. You actually present yourself.
It doesn't just happen like this.
Yeah, so it doesn't just happen like that.
That sounds so easy.
Yes, it sounds so easy. So it's not easy to actually deliver it like that.
But I think as young people, there's also we can also contribute.
Yeah.
We can express our ideas politely.
Yeah.
Not with
aggression. Sour.
Yeah. And
let's now read some of the comments that are also coming in from our viewers who are watching us. Kindly remember to add the hashtag #TheSummitRW. Like I said earlier on, like you can see right here, that's what I'm following to be able to pick up some of the new tweets that you're sending. I have one from Josepha who says 18 million new jobs are required annually. Where will they come from? And of course, she says she's listening in on the conversation that is actually going on. I have Robert Mugapo who says investment in innovative solutions to tackle challenges facing youth, such as unemployment, poverty, and inequality, and support for youth-led initiatives. This is very interesting when it comes to supporting youth-led initiatives. We'll be able to try and understand how those are being done. Some of those initiatives that are actually supporting the youth, how can they be encouraged? I have Ruzindana, a good friend of ours, says great insights coming out from Rika, Solange, and Christian on all these things that are needed for young people. On the other hand, we should think about this. How are they participating in civic engagement? How are they contributing to the national development? I mean, what is their role in what they need? This is a very powerful question that will take us to a very short break. As we ponder about how to answer that particular question, I want you to stay with us. Don't go too far. When we come back, we'll be able to
RBA app is here. How'd you get it? It is easier than ever. Go on your home screen. Press Play Store or App Store. Type RBA. Search. There you go. You have RBA app. You have all RBA radios, news, business news, sport and entertainment.
And welcome back. Thank you so much for still being with us right here on the summit. It is your summit and you're welcome. It is definitely happening right here each and every Wednesday from 9 p.m. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. We get to engage on various issues that affect you and we open the conversation right over to you. Engage us and talk to us on our social media platforms. The hashtag, as always, is the summit RW. I'm right here still with my panelists, and of course we have opened up the conversation. We have panelists right here in studio, and we have those who are joining us from Lusaka, Zambia, and in Nairobi, Kenya. Before we went for the break, we have spoken a bit about the areas concerning leadership. We've talked about the areas on education, and I want us to just try to look at the area of technology and pause there for a moment, because we have had, Rick has mentioned, technology, ICT is actually the game changer. This is where we should be looking at. And of course, there's even a report that I was looking at, 80 million new jobs could be created by the emerging digital economy by 2030. We're talking about 80 million jobs and $180 billion size of the digital economy by 2025. But are young people ready to actually take advantage of this? This $180 billion market, where will this money go to? Will the young people take advantage of this? Christian, when we talk about the opportunities in technology, when we talk about entrepreneurship, what are the gaps? And when we talk about that specifically on the issue of consistency, you mentioned that on leadership, but there's also consistency in continuing these entrepreneurial activities. In Kenya, for instance, 2 million Kenyans, they've given up on searching for jobs. They've tried their hands in business. It's not working. They just said, let it be. Yeah. Consistency, and how do we take advantage of these jobs that the digital economy?
Thank you. One, we start with the education system. Are we being introduced to the technology at an early age?
Answer me. What do you think? Are we?
So we need to start introducing technology to people in primary schools, not just the so-called, it's called the 1 hour they have in the lab.
One laptop per child, or smart classrooms?
Yeah, smart classrooms. Kind of works, but not as
effective.
Yeah, and we need to also, one thing, that's what worries me, when people are, now the new easy language is create your own jobs, be an entrepreneur, do this, but what is going to happen to the 9-to-5 jobs? Because maybe they're not enough, but they're still there. Aren't we pushing the newcomers on the market to always thinking of what they can do themselves instead of also trying to find where the 9-to-5 are? Because we are not all going to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Yeah.
Aren't we pushing people where they were not supposed to be going? That's another question.
I see Deja is looking at me. I'm sure probably there's something from the Ministry of Youth in preparing the Rwandan youth to take advantage of this 180 billion digital economy in terms of the market size.
Yes, that is the African Continental Free Trade Area, because when you look at what technology can do, it can be, an enabler for Africans, for actually Rwandans to trade with other Africans, because technology is a facility to be able to put out a platform where you can be selling made in Rwanda products to South Africans, to Algerians. How are our Rwandan young people prepared for that? Are they really open-minded to look at that as an opportunity, to leverage that platform that has been put there by our leaders? Because when I try to think of what young people need actually, and I think this is a very important point to mention, is for them to understand that they won't be young people forever. They will come for them to take responsibility and to be the one taking the lead of the Africa and of the country, and that will require them to be capable of doing that, and them being capable should start now.
3 ways of how Rwanda is preparing its young people. Just share with us.
Number one is the education system that we should keep on improving. And number two is through investment. We have a lot of programs that invest in young entrepreneurs, the SMEs, for them to be able to to scale up their businesses and to be able to look at the African market and the global markets. And number 3 is supporting those who want to be professionals, those who want to the blue-collar job, to join different institutions. We have a lot of entrepreneurship programs that introduce young people to what's happening in public sector, private sector. We have a lot of volunteerism programs, support young people who want to work for government. Of course, there are gaps that we have to close, but a lot is being done. But are our young people following up? Are they taking advantage of what's there? Because some of them are sitting there to keep on complaining. This should be done, this should be done. But you as a young person, what are you doing for yourself, for your country?
It's a powerful question. Rika, you engage young people a lot. And what do you read on the ground, especially on that question of what are they doing, what are we doing as young people ourselves before asking for what should be done for us to be able to thrive?
Well, really, for us, what we see, so there is some of the challenges that young people have shared with us is access to information. And I think, forums like this and others are very important. So, for example, if we want to reach, and sometimes there's a mismatch. We talked about this mismatch between market and education, labor market and education. But sometimes it's also, where's the information going? So if, for example, you're speaking to young people in the rural areas, they don't have Twitter. I don't think you have a lot of people tweeting outside of Kigali. So it's radio, for example. So how are we leveraging some of the information to actually, have more young people come to us? Very recently, some of them told us, we said we wanted to find them where they are. I come back to what we're saying. Young people are not heterogeneous, right? And so depending on the young people that you're trying to reach, you would have to find a different approach. But definitely agency is also an important one, which is what Solange is talking about, because it really the young people also need to have agency. And that also requires a bit of education, the self-confidence, because they may know, but they are not confident. And if you allow, I know we want to hear from others, especially young women. I think young women are sometimes the ones that are forgotten the most because, of the social norms. They don't speak up. If a young woman or a woman wants to start a business, access to finance is even harder for her. Because even though she has access to to assets, if she's married, she will have to ask the husband. And usually, the man might say, well, I don't think it's a good idea. A man comes and informs you that he's putting the house for collateral. The woman won't ask any question.
I thought that has changed in today's generation. Is that still happening?
It's changing.
It's changing, but it's a long process. And again, the law is there, but social norms take time. And so I think those are some of the things that one has to consider. So it's not easy, definitely need for agency, but it's a process. It's a process.
It's a process. Let's bring back Felix. Felix, if you're still with us, I want to read your mind on where the jobs will come from and how young people are actually positioning themselves to take advantage of this. We're talking about, even the agricultural sector. 35% of Africa's GDP is actually generated from here. We're looking at 80% of agricultural production in Africa is generated by smallholder farmers. These are opportunities. On the digital economy, we've talked about 80 million jobs that will be emerging from this sector by 2030. $180 billion economy, that's the digital economy. But are young people ready to take advantage of this? Where are the gaps? What needs to be done?
Thank you so much, moderator. Where the challenge has been is lack of building capacity of the young people. We have all this financing, we have all these opportunities that we have outlined, but have we built the capacity of the young people that are going to take up these positions or go in these sectors? So what we have to do as Africa is to build the capacity of the young people that are going to take up and go into business, young people that are going to go into agriculture, but also come up with, I think politicians or governments have to be intentional and deliberate in the policies to support young people to go in agriculture, young people to go in mining, young people to go in the different sector, either be construction. Government should be deliberate and should be intentional with the young people. But also it comes down to the young people also. The young people must realize that time to complain has come to an end. a position, and I always say this to my fellow young people, a position will never be given to you because of your age. An opportunity will not be given to you because of your age. An opportunity will be given to you because you have the capacity and because you have built yourself, you have been mentored, and you have the understanding, you have sat under people that are building your capacity to produce and to be relevant and effective when you are given these opportunities. For example, we say we have $1 million or $2 million that we have given to the young people in agriculture.
Yeah.
Have we built their capacity is a question. If not, why then don't we first build the capacity of these young people who want to go in agriculture? The young people want to go in the various sectors of agriculture. Build the capacity. As we give them these funds, we have confidence that they are going to produce. We have confidence that the results are going to be seen. If we continue just giving platforms to the young people and saying, young people, we have access to finance, come, without building their capacity, we will not achieve our intended goals. So I say we need to build the capacity of young people to take up these jobs. Job creation.
Interesting.
Job creation will come in when we build the same capacity of young people who are going to then employ fellow young people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Felix, again.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Felix. Very important. And I think the underlying word that you're actually putting to this conversation tonight is building capacity to prepare young people to take advantage of this. And I'll come back to Rika, then I'll share with the two other panelists here, and then we'll go back to Alice. Rika, I know this language, build capacity, we are building capacity. I had someone say, give me the building, stay with the capacity. For how long? And then what's the mismatch? What is it that is not being done right? Because, I mean, a lot of trainings, we see them happening. But what do you want as a person who engages young people through capacity building? What do you want from them? What do you want them to do, even as they take up this training and upscaling opportunities that you offer at the Mastercard Foundation?
Yes, and maybe just to build on what you said, give me the building and keep capacity. What we've heard from them as well is we are overtrained and underfunded. So similar. I think, if I take the example of entrepreneurship, the capacity to run a business, what we want is for them to have access to finance and, to make money for themselves, their communities, and create jobs. Yeah. And I think what is important is, how you approach. It's a multifaceted approach. There's what the young person can do. Do you have the capacity? Are you able to invest? And I agree, not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. So we're not suggesting that every young person should become an entrepreneur. Yeah. But we also need to realize that this is an ecosystem. Yeah. We have a lot of young people who are trained, but then access to finance, affordable finance, because that's the issue. And sometimes the ecosystem is not conducive. They ask for collateral. Where do you expect a young person who just is 25, where does he get collateral? High interest rate. And then sometimes it's also innovative businesses. We're talking about the digital market. A lot of our financial service providers don't have products for this kind of markets. This is new to them as well. So it's also capacity within the financial service institutions.
To create that turnaround. Yeah, Deje, I think when I'm listening to this, I'm worried because what I know or what I think the Ministry of Youth should also look like or do is to do advocacy for young people through policy formulation. And it's not the first time I'm hearing on the issue of access to finance being a challenge, that financial institutions are not giving young people the conducive environment for them to get affordable financing. Please talk to us tonight. What are the actions from a policy perspective in creating an environment where finance can be affordable for young people to be able to run their dreams and see them come to life?
One of the solutions that was put in place by the government of Rwanda is BDF, that I think most of young people are aware of. Though they say that they still say that the guarantee is still high, but at least it gives them a run without with a high grant, so that they can be able to do their businesses. But again,
you think it's still high, or do you agree that?
I think it's high for some and reasonable for some. So it depends on the caliber and the scale of the business of a young person. And of course, we are looking at how we can make this work for all the young people in different categories. Yeah. But again, there are other grants that are put out there by the government of Rwanda. For example, the Ministry of Youth has the Youth Connect Award and boot camp that happens every year, where we support young people with business ideas. But again, you have to ask me, how many of them do succeed at businesses?
How many?
While they have money. Of course, we have some who do not break even because, you know, the skilling, the mentorship, the coaching, but also the business environment that might be conducive to their business idea. So I think this is a big question, and we have to look at it on both ways. Young people and what's there. Because there are opportunities there, and I never agree with people who say that young people are not capacitated, because I don't think
training is enough.
Is enough. They've been given a lot of trainings, but how can they use the little training they have to make a living? Yeah. And it should
What do you want from the youth?
I want them to be aggressive.
You want them to be aggressive?
I want them to be aggressive in trying to make a living. I don't want them to sit somewhere and wait for the government, wait for MasterCard, wait for our past initiatives.
Well, they'll say, that's why you're paid. You're paid to do that for us.
No. I'm not paid to do that for them. Yeah. I'm paid to, to do this, to tell them that they can, use the knowledge they have. Yeah. And to show them how they can use the knowledge they have to be able to make a living. Okay. And have to support them through that process. Okay. Yeah.
We are really running out of time. Christian, you're not aggressive. Why?
I think I am.
Christian is aggressive.
He's aggressive.
Politely.
So what should be done then to have young people be aggressive enough to take...
First of all, I would like to commend your institution, MasterCard Foundation, and other programs like Jasiri. I have a friend of mine who's going through one of the Jasiri's program, and this is a guy, me and other 10 friends of mine, we have always said if he ever gets funding, it will be skyrocket, and he's doing amazing. Yeah. So
there's only 1 minute.
So we need access to funds. Yeah. We need access to skills, not just the sake of following any program, but for getting the real skills that are going to help them thrive. So I think what we can improve is the education system on a very early age, and help us when we have ideas, because sometimes even ideas get brought in the middle of the process.
Right. Yeah. I want now to take the final closing remarks from Alice. Alice, from where you sit, I mean, what do we go with from this conversation tonight? I'll hit it if people have picked nothing from it. If there's anything that we should pick tonight, what could it be in just under 30 seconds?
All right. I think the first thing we need to take home is that there is need for massive and practical government support, especially towards the youth in the aspect of entrepreneurship. I note with a lot of gratitude that the Kenyan government, especially under the Kenya Kwanza regime, has established the Hustler Fund, which of course has been held to be taking youth a long way towards supporting the entrepreneurial dream. Yeah. However, they also still need to address the issue of bureaucracies and cutthroat taxation regimes. Yeah. And we also note that now the central bank has reverted the old regime of, increased interest rate payments for the banks, which had been waived during the COVID period. So now we are back to normal, and that is likely to have a downward effect, especially on, MSMEs and youth-led entrepreneurships. Right. So that is something that the Ministry of SMEs may want to look at, as well as the youth MPs that we have in Parliament, Senate, and the county assemblies.
They need to do
so
their
there's
job.
Need for government support for the youth, and the youth also needs to stretch forth, to be welcoming towards whatever is offered from government.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice. Just one word we're going out with for this particular conversation. Just one word. One word.
I think we should look at the good leadership side.
Yeah, leadership.
That,
So you're going with leadership. Rika, what are you going with?
Nothing for the youth without the youth.
I'll happily finish that for you. Pleasure.
For me, you start now.
You?
They should start now.
Start now,
Yeah.
because you'll never be youth forever.
Yes.
I think those are very powerful conversations that we have had, and we will be taking away from this particular conversation. Felix, I know we will be with you again next time. I'm told that the internet connectivity is slightly shaky from where you are, but thank you very much for joining us from Lusaka, Zambia, and Honorable Alice for joining us from Nairobi, Kenya, and of course right here in studio we have had Christian Inwari, who's the director of our past initiative. We've also had Rika Rigamba, the country director of the MasterCard Foundation, and of course Solange Tetero, who's the Director General Youth Empowerment Ministry of Youth right here in Rwanda. It's a conversation that starts today and opens doors for many similar conversations. So this is not the end. We'll have more of this right here on the program. Let's keep the conversation going. The hashtag, as always, is the Summit RW. My name, as always, is Eugene. And Goodbye for now.